Hello, I'm Dr. David Milgram, founder of Positive Body Language and the 7 Keys to Self-Empowerment. In Matt Wood's book, 7 Herbs, Plants as Teachers, he used the herb iris of the rainbow, Iris versicolor, to describe the honoring of the mental body. The iris flower grows for many years as a tiny little woody rhizome in the bog. It grows for many years unseen, and then it puts out a stem and a beautiful flower arises above the swamp. So the iris brings beauty to where it once was bogged down and depressed. The biblical character that relates to this honoring of the mental body, he described as being Noah, of Noah and the ark. In the story, Noah is asked to build the ark, in which the specifications are very exacting from God. And that is to build an ark big enough for all the animals, 2 of each, and to have no windows where Noah could look outside to see what's happening in the outer world, but only one window up above, so he could only look up. So in this key of honoring the mind, what we're really talking about is this is where we learn, through honoring our own mental processes, to honor the divine mind within us, the voice of God, the voice of the Spirit, guiding us, prompting us, trying to help us grow and learn. The decisions that Noah made to build the ark and land it safely to shore ended up saving him as well as his whole family and group of people. So Iris and Noah perfectly describe the honoring of the mental body. Above all things, what Noah had to do to get the job done of building the ark and landing it safely was he had to be very, very centered. He had to listen to an extreme level, to trust his own mind and his own truth, but to take it to a higher level of learning. But what is the human being but a wild animal itself, 2-legged without feathers? The divine midline, the divine energy flows through the midline to center oneself into the central energy is a major key for learning in the mental body. Centering is very important also with regards to our blood sugar. When our blood sugar is balanced, we're not too wired and we're not too tired, but we're centered. The blood sugar reflects the mental state. So to keep one center means, for many people, to eat on time and to eat the foods that are right for it. For food allergies and poisons and toxins in food oftentimes cause the blood sugar to rise too high, as in diabetes, or too low, as in hypoglycemia. So centering one's blood sugar is a major key for mental harmony and balance. The second level of honoring the mental body, after the root of centering, is the stem of transcending mental limitations. How can you really know what your mental limitations are and which ones you want to transcend and how completely if you don't center yourself first? Your blood sugar, your awareness, your consciousness within your body. So to take the attitude of transcending mental limitations, I want to transcend my own mental limitations, can be a major key to further the growth processes within the mental body. The third level of honoring the mental body, the third key, I call consciousness. There is consciousness. Generally, we think of consciousness as being of the mind. Generally, we think of alignment, as mentioned in the first key, as being of the body. But alignment can be of many more things and aspects than the body, just as consciousness can relate not only to the mind, but to the spirit and the emotions and the soul. But between the A, the alignment of the body, and the C, the consciousness of the mind, is the B, the breathing of the spirit. So the breathing integrates the alignment and the consciousness. The breathing of the spirit connects the body and the mind. When we align ourselves, it helps our breathing. Rather than we're misaligned, it's hard to breathe. When we align ourselves, it helps lift up our consciousness. Conversely, when we use our consciousness, it helps our alignment. Even if our consciousness of, oh, I'm slouched, I'm in bad posture, we can use that consciousness to then lift ourselves up into alignment. So A can help B and C. Alignment can help breathing and consciousness. Consciousness can help breathing and alignment. Breathing deeply and fully and strongly can help consciousness and alignment. So they all interrelate, A, B, and C. The fourth level of honoring the mental body I call harmony. This is the leaf of honoring the mental body, where the real transformation happens. For without harmony in our mind, we cannot go on or grow on in any good way. Creating harmony within the mind is the major key for many of the other keys. What we are doing with positive body language is not getting rid of a negative emotion or a chemical. We are creating harmonization so that the body can adapt to the stress or the poison or the toxin rather than maladapt and not adapt. We teach the ways to the body so that it can harmonize with what's happening. We can teach the body to harmonize and adapt well to what is happening, to what it is exposed to, and what it is dealing with, as well as what it is seeking to raise itself up to. For what we are seeking to really raise ourselves up to through harmonization of the mental body is the fifth level, that of inner learning, inner obedience, that we can learn from within. We can be informed by our energy and our spirit through our alignment, our breathing, and our consciousness, through our inner trust and our inner truth. And using them, we can engender inner learning, even inner obedience to the divine voice within guiding us. This is the key where we say to Spirit, teach me, please, teach me. The sixth level of honoring the mental body, what I call the fruit of all those labors, is realizing understanding, having the realization of what truth is medicine, what awareness is the healer, of having understanding. There is no realization of understanding without the previous inner learning and inner obedience. Inner learning and obedience to the divine voice within lifts us up from the flower to the fruit of realization of communications. Having that attitude helps us have a better aptitude for being at a higher altitude within our mind, within our mental body. This ultimately lifts us up to the seed of honoring the mental body, and that is called metanoia. Metanoia is the divine mind within you. Metanoia is an ancient Greek word that literally means beyond the form, beyond the shape. But it came to mean in ancient Greece a genuine reconversion of the heart, where we change, where we let go of some attachment, mentally, emotionally, whatever, and we listen to the divine voice instead and become completely aligned to it to help ourselves and others, just as Noah did in building the ark and bringing it safely to shore. He helped many. The third key of honoring the mental body and divine mind within is also related to a law of healing. Healing law number 3 is the law of the healing crisis. And that is basically that the body wisdom knows what to do to create healing. And sometimes that healing entails a release of negativity, of the obsolete, of what is no longer necessary, also known as symptoms. What the body is expressing outwardly is oftentimes interpreted as something bad, something indicating that the body doesn't know what it's doing. But through an understanding of the law of the healing crisis, we believe that the body knows completely what it's doing all the time, is always doing the best it can to the best of its ability, and maybe the best of its debility, but it's still always doing its best to effect a cure, even if the release process looks really hairy, like a crisis. I've told many of my patients for years, healing is like peeling off the layers of an onion. You just got to keep peeling. Most people believed it, and one woman that I worked with and worked with me very intensely for years said to me one day, "You know, it's no good if it's an onion. You peel off all these layers, you get to the middle, into the center, and there's nothing there, and you've cried the whole time." I drove home and I said, darn it, she's right. So one day I said to myself, it's an artichoke heart, and I wrote this little song. Life's not an onion tubing, nothing but tears, it's an artichoke heart. It's just getting past the hairy parts. It's just getting past, it's just breathing through the hairy parts. The primary attention mode of honoring the mental body is consciousness and superconsciousness. Superconsciousness of feeling, superconsciousness of seeing, superconsciousness of hearing, superconscious of using all of your senses to bless yourself up. The resonant brain center that correlates to honoring the mental body are the cerebral hemispheres. The left and right hemispheres are quite a bit different. The human animal looks symmetrical, but is very, very different on the inside. Not only are our hemispheres completely different, the right hemisphere processing the intuitive and the left hemisphere processing the logical, the right hemisphere looking at the whole, the left hemisphere looking at the parts. But in the rest of the body, the appendix is completely on the right side, the gallbladder is completely on the right side, the liver is 98.5% on the right side, whereas the stomach is about 97% on the left side, the spleen is completely on the left side, and the pancreas is about 98-99% on the left side. So we really engender what William Blake, the greatest poet in the world, called a fearful symmetry, a fearful symmetry. We look symmetrical, but we really are not inside. Consciousness is the primary healing mode, attention and access mode for honoring the mental body, using your consciousness, even superconsciousness. The major chakra that I correlate with honoring the mental body is the third chakra. The third chakra, where the power play of what we feel in dealing with ourself and others gets worked out. The first chakra relates to self. The second chakra relates to others and the illusion of separation that we have with them. But in the third chakra, this is where the light fibers come in and out of the body relating to power games and conditional giving and receiving and communication, basically. But also, this is where we learn to protect ourselves, particularly when we're dealing with some sort of crisis or healing crisis. It is from this center, the third chakra, where the head of the pancreas and the islets of Langerhans control the blood sugar of the brain. So the centering ability of the brain is really controlled from the third chakra. The quality and freedom of flowing energy in the liver and the gallbladder and the stomach also greatly affects the mind, not to mention the self-esteem spleen. The dominant energetic, or say the core energetic of honoring the mental body, is harmonization. But oftentimes the dominant energetic is processing, dealing with some kind of a judgment, whether from God, others, or self. The dominant energetic is often where we are working out what are we receiving, what are we giving, and what are we doing with it, and how can we stay in balance and harmony with a flow and a flux of energy. The core issue of honoring the mental body is really all about justice and injustice. The person who oftentimes is caught in the mental oftentimes is caught because they're fiercely holding to a feeling of justice where they see injustice. They want to create justice. The dominant core energetic of the mental body, therefore, also is feeling bogged down, not feeling sure as to how to fulfill one's role, living in should land, shoulding on oneself. What should I do? How can I fulfill myself to free my mind? Honor it. The cerebrospinal fluid that I've identified with the energy body and the brain ventricles and spinal canal within the spinal cord that I've identified with the spiritual body is furthered by the brain and spinal cord that I identify with the mental body. From the center outwards, energy flows from the center and the energy to the spirit and the sacred space, and then outwards into the spinal cord and brain, to the hemispheres of the brain, where thought and intuitive processes go on. So the statement, in a sense, the prayer of the mental body is teach me. This is what we are saying to Divine Mind. This is what Divine Mind is asking us to align ourselves to and say, teach me. Let me have inner learning. Learning from within, not dependent on the outer world, but open and seeking to bless it as well as oneself. At the Positive Body Language Seminar in the Meta-Practicum portion of Honoring the Mental Body, I will be teaching the positive body language contacts for the root to the seed. That is, I will be teaching the PBL, Positive Body Language Contacts, for centering, for transcending mental limitations, for consciousness, for harmonization, for inner learning, inner obedience, for realization of communications, as well as for metanoia, the divine mind within. Another part of the Metta Practicum Positive Body Language Seminar for Honoring the Mental Body will be in teaching you ways to help the hemispheres of the brain through light contacts and through a series of adjusting procedures that is very gentle and yet effective. Of course, another aspect that will be taught at the Metta Practicum portion of the 7 Keys to Self-Empowerment Honoring the Mental Body will be teaching what's called neuro-spiritual technique to teach the body ways to let go of the associated emotions with the mental body. I look forward to seeing you at the upcoming Positive Body Language seminars.